Hello and welcome back to Assetto Corsa. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Ferrari 330 P4. This car is, well, probably Ferrari's most dominant endurance racer. Very well known. An incredible car, incredible machine, and it did compete with the likes of the Porsches and the Ford GT40s. I almost forgot the name for a moment. The Ford GT40s, which of course we know how incredible the GT40 is. Now we finally have a competitor in Assetto Corsa because the GT40 is also in Assetto Corsa, as is one of the Porsches. So I think now we've got three cars that can compete equally against each other. But we're looking at this car in the Ferrari pack for the 70th anniversary of Ferrari. What does this car have? What are the specifications? Well, a 4-litre V12. You can hear the V12 quite clearly. There is a 4-litre V12 engine bolted on this car, mid-engine, longitudinally mounted. It is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. So, of course, having the engine mid-engine does make it inherently balanced as best as possible. But going back to that engine, it's a naturally aspirated engine, 4 litres, like I said, 3 valves per cylinder. It's got a chain-driven camshaft, so no belts in this. There isn't like a cam belt. Twin spark, dry sump, and it does produce, like I said, if you think about it, 4 litres and 444 brake horsepower. It's about 110 or just over 110 horsepower per litre, or bhp per litre anyway, brake horsepower, which isn't much if you think about the cars of today. But this is the 1970s we're talking about, and that is a lot of power in the 1970s. The red line for this car seems to be just over 8,000 rpm, but the power comes in at 8,000 rpm, so you really have to take this car all the way up towards red line to really get the most power out of it. The body itself is aluminium and fiberglass panels with steel tubular chassis and alloy reinforcements. Suspension is, well, the standard racing suspension you would get for the 1970s, so double wishbone, coil springs, telescopic shock absorbers, anti-roll bars, the works on that. Ventilated brake discs to make sure that you do have very good braking all around, and it is, like I said, a 5-speed manual bolted to a rear-wheel drive. So we've got a 5-speed manual transmission, meaning heel toe is also important on this. But because of this, you do have a very light weight on this car of only 790 or thereabouts kilograms, which is about 1,750 pounds, give or take 5 or 6 pounds. So 1,750 pounds or 790 kilograms. That is pretty lightweight. And that's why you got this 444 brake horsepower, and you're like, well, you know, there's not a big deal on that. It's really not a big deal because it's just so light that can hurl it around everywhere you want. If you were to bring this up to a ton, you're looking at what, about 500. I suppose you're looking at about 550, maybe about 600 bhp per ton, which is, that's a really good setup there. So the top speed of this car also goes up to about 199 miles an hour, I believe. If I'm remembering correctly, it's 199 miles an hour. So just shy of the 200 mile an hour mark. And at the end of this video, you will see me on the back straight trying to really put the hammer down and see how fast I can go. I don't think I get anywhere near 199, but I'm certainly way up there in the high 100s. So it is very powerful. That's pretty much the specs on this car. It is a very nice car. A little bit of trivia about the car. Like I said, it did battle with the GT40s and the Porsches, and it claimed a stunning 1-2-3 victory at Daytona, which is probably its most famous victory, the 1-2-3 at Daytona, which then they did a nice parade where they had the 3 Ferraris line up driving around Daytona on the oval, with 2 Porsches that had come 4th and 5th. So you had the 2 Porsches that had come 4th and 5th, and all 5 of them drove around trying to display the European superiority over the American cars, over the Fords, which actually I think they basically mostly failed to finish. I don't know whether 1 or 2 finished, but for the most part they did not finish, which is Poor from Ford, but you know, what can you do? Ford have won Le Mans. Ford are a great company. You know, their racing heritage is absolutely incredible as well. But Ferrari obviously wanted to prove a point here. Now, moving on from all the trivia and what the car is like in terms of real life, what it's achieved, what is it like in Assetto Corsa? Well, the first thing we look at obviously is the modelling and texturing. Modelling and texturing on this car absolutely fantastic. We have loads and loads of numbers available. As you can see, I'm using my race number 23. There are plenty of numbers available, and all of them come with slightly different liveries as well, or some of them come with slightly different liveries. So you'll have a stripe here, a little marking there, a bit of difference here and there. It's a very, very nice car. Plenty of things to choose from. You can have good multiplayer races with everyone having individual numbers without having to do any downloads of any mods. The car itself, in terms of modeling, is fantastic. In terms of the interior texturing, obviously it's a simple car, so you would expect them to get it right, and they have. It's very, very nicely done. The sounds, it sounds like a V12 engine, absolutely brilliant. You can't fault the V12 engine there. It's very characteristic. Once you get used to knowing different engines of cars, you can tell which engine is which, and you can tell that this is a V12 engine. It does have a nice rumble outside. You can hear the off when it's off throttle. You can hear it. You can hear it when it's when you're changing gears. You can really hear all the different noises, the mechanical noises of the car, which I like about old cars, because old cars have these mechanical noises that you don't find now in cars. And that's exactly what Kunos have managed to simulate here, is all those different noises, and that is really, really good. So very, very well done on the sounds there. Maybe not quite up to the F2004 standard, but definitely right up there. Their sound department is getting a lot better now, as opposed to what they used to do. So, you know, I used to complain more about the sounds in the past than I do now. Going to driving physics, what is this car like to drive? Well, it's an absolute blast. It is honestly an absolute blast. You're not sort of looking at a car that's incredibly stable around every corner, and you can turn it in and feel what's going to happen every single time. You're looking at a race car that is twitchy, it's not unpredictable, but it is, what's the right word? You have to be on your toes. You really have to be on your toes. If you're not, then what will happen is that you are going to go into a corner slightly too fast, you are going to hit a curb, and you are going to spin this vehicle out. Let's see how fast I can get right over here. So you can see I'm up 170-ish miles an hour at the moment, and I am still accelerating. I think I might get to 180 plus. No, it looks like I'm topping out at around 175. So there you go. 175 is what I could get on this before I had to back out for the turn at the end of the long straight. So you really do have to be careful with the car. It does have a tendency to oversteer, especially when you're hard on the brakes, you turn it in, it does want to oversteer. Naturally, you have the whole weight of the car shifted forward, and because it's a light car, it is going to understeer. The brakes are absolutely incredible on this. They really are incredible on this car. It's very, very well modeled, and it's a real blast to drive, but I do recommend you keep it off the curbs. You see here a few times I take it on the curbs, and the car does not like the curbs around here. A flatter curb, sure, but those curbs, as you can see right there, it does not like those curbs. It's not very well designed for curbs. However, it does ride the bumps very, very well. It's a fairly stiffly sprung suspension, but it looks like it can ride the bumps on the road and manage to maintain the traction. And as you can see, there's a little spot of oversteer there, just to demonstrate how difficult this car can be to drive. With that said, is the car bad? Not at all. I really, really enjoy this car. It's got a very classic feel to it, but it feels like mechanically it's very stable. What's missing on this is there aren't any aerodynamics. So when you're going around a corner, the aerodynamics are not pushing the car. There's no rear fin or anything to push the car in, and naturally the mechanical side of it is still old technology, so you are getting understeer and oversteer with the movement of the suspension, which is simulated very, very well. So I give this car a I'm going to give this car a 9.5 out of 10. It's really good, and obviously personal preference is my half a mark. So 9.5 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and support me on Patreon. Link to that is in the description box below. Link to that, your support would be massively appreciated. I'll see you guys next time.